All right, so this video is gonna demonstrate the snake eyes counter program. So let's read this. It says, in dice games such as craps, snake eyes represents a roll of 2 dice that each are equal to 1, or the sum of the 2 dice equals 2. And you could do either one, it doesn't matter. It's how you would do your Boolean condition would change and it would look a little bit different, but I usually just do the total is equal to 2, and so for the 2 dice. So anyway, it says create a program that counts how many times it takes you to roll snake eyes. You will need a loop that adds 1 to a counter variable if the roll was not a snake eyes. Okay, so you're setting a counter variable if the loop is not a snake eyes. Once you get snake eyes, you will need a loop that asks if the user wants to play again. Use a sentinel value to leave the game if you do not want to play again. Okay, so few things. Usually when you're playing a game like this, I always use a do-while loop because a do-while loop allows you to play at least one time and then it checks to see if you want to play again. If you did a while loop, you would have to, you could do a while loop, but I just like to do a while loop in this condition. A sentinel value is a value that like when you're playing games, you don't know how many times the player wants to play. So using a for loop that, you know, only allows the player to play a certain amount of times isn't a good idea. Because again, they might want to play only once or they may want to play forever or whatever. So you'd basically ask the user at the end, would you like to play again? And in this case, the sentinel value would be like a Y or an N. So if they enter Y, then they get to play again. If they enter N for no, they don't get to play again, kind of thing. So that you can set up your sentinel value. So hint uses code. Okay, so this is actually Java code right here, but I'll show you how to do the C++ random generator. It's real similar to this. So anyway, you know, we'll create main snake eyes counter. That'll be our class. And I mean, if you think about what we're doing, you're setting a counter variable and and allowing it to play until it gets snake eyes, and you're getting a counter variable to see how many times it took to get snake eyes. So I'm gonna create a set and get method once I'm gonna write it procedurally first, and then I'm gonna kind of put in, like I've always done so far this semester, and put in the method or the functions. All right, so let's do Visual Studio, and then we'll talk through how to do our while loops, because we're going to need 2 of them. We're going to need nested loops. So we'll call it main snake eyes counter and say create. Okay, so let's see here. Do that. Alright, so I'm going to delete that for now, and then I just want to kind of think through. So our do while loop looks something like this. Do while, and our while is going to be what? We'll say play again is equal to yes. Okay, and then so in here we'll have some sort of cout would you like to play again? Enter Y for yes or N for no. And we'll say, whoops, CN, play again. All right, so we know above here we want to have a char play again. And we're going to set it to N for the first time, okay? Okay. So again, the idea of this is that you get in here, you're going to play whatever game you're going to play in this section right here. And then at the end, you're going to ask would they like to play again. And while they want to play again, then it will come back up to the top here, and then it will do it again. So I'm kind of building the game backwards, just because when you're first dealing with loops, it's kind of hard to think through what you're trying to do. And in my mind, thinking through the most basics of like the construction of like the game and how it's going to work, it's easier to think through like this in my mind, where we set up the basic loop, the basic outer loop that will allow us to play, and then ask if they want to play again, and then we can go back in here and kind of work through how we're going to actually play the game, okay? So, remember the Snake Eyes is a total of 2. So while it's not 2, you keep playing, all right? So in here, I'm going to say while total is not equal to 2. Okay, and we're going to have a bunch of variables up here. So we're going to have like int total. What else? We're going to have a counter. We're going to have a dice1 and dice2 variable. And let's see here for now. Let's try this. So total at first is equal to 0. So first time through, it's automatically defined as 0. So it's going to let you come in here once because 0 is not equal to 2. Okay. So then what we do is we got to set our random dice variable. So we'll say dice1 is equal to, and in a dice you want to do 1 through 6. So I'm going to do plus 1. So I'm going to call a rand function that's part of the standard library. And basically what it's doing is saying it starts at 1 and it goes to 6. And it's going to create a random variable or random number between 1 and 6 here, doing it like this, okay? So that will be that, and I'll copy that. Okay. And again, I could spend a bunch of time explaining how this works, but ultimately it doesn't matter. There's a concept called abstraction where something's built for you previously and you know it works, so just use it. Like all of us know how to drive a car. We don't have to care or know how to like fix a transmission. I don't know anything about transmissions to be able to drive the car. I just know how to drive the car because there's been, lots of stuff built for me that I don't need to know anything about. So, for where we're at in this class, I mean, if you guys want to go research this, you can, but you just need to know how to use it. You don't need to know what's happening behind the scenes, okay? So anyway, total is going to be equal to dice1 plus dice2, okay? And then we'll do a print statement here. C out, dice 1, and then we'll do what? We'll do dice 1, and then we'll do comma dice, dice 2, and then we'll do a dice 2, and then we'll do an end L. Okay. And then we will do, well, I mean, we could do count right here, counter. So counter at first is going to be set to 0. So, you know, depending on how many times you play, then, I'm going to do this wrong. So think about this. Let's say the first time it takes 5 rolls to get to, takes 5 rolls to get to, you know, snake eyes. So counter would be 5, right? But then that while loop would be done, okay? And it would have gone through 5 different times to get the snake eyes. Then it would get here and say, would you like to play again? And so you say yes, and it would go back up in here. Counter in total should get set back to 0. So let's do that here. Total equals 0, and counter equals 0. Dice 1 and dice 2 don't matter because each time you play, it's getting reset. But total would be, well, counter is just being added up, so you don't want to just keep adding up all the way. You want to be able to set it back to 0 again before you get into the new round of the game. And total, you don't want it to be, it's going to end when it equals 2, so 2 is not equal to 2, so it would quit afterwards. So you want to set that back to 0. Let me think here. And then, let me think here. I think then all we need is C out, game over, thanks for playing. Okay, so I think this is right. Actually, I got an issue, I think, with my random generator stuff. Let's see what's going on here. Oh, I need a semicolon there. So it did 4 different times. And then I need to have my counter, let me think here. I need to have my, okay, so right here, before it says, do you want to play again? You want to, because we get out of that, we want to say, C out. Let's see, number of times, number of rolls, I guess, number of rolls, before snake eyes. And then I would do what? Counter. Alright, so let's try this again. So let's close this and run that. Notice I think it's going to come up with the exact same. Yeah, 4 and these numbers were the exact same. So it says number of rolls before snake eyes 4. Would you like to play again? Yes. And then 49. Okay, cool. So I need to put an end L here, end L. And also, what do I need to do? I need to do, all right, so if I do this, srand, because right now it's giving me the exact same numbers every time, all right? So if I do time So what this does is this sets up a random seed each time I play. So watch this. If I run this now, instead of having 4, I'll likely get, whatever, 48. Every time it was going to be the exact same. So do I want to play again? Yes. 4. Yes. 37. No. Okay, so let's try this again. So it's like 48. So there's 5. So it's different each time. 46. So let's just you can kind of look through these and make sure that, okay, 1 and 1 is what's breaking out of it. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rolls before it ends. Would you like to play again? Enter Y, yes. So then it does, I don't know how many here. It's like 40 something. Let's see here. Number of rolls, 46, yes. So 5, yes. 12, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, okay. So, again, you're going to want to use this to set up a random seed so that your random number generator works correctly. And just from the tests that I did, I think this looks good. And just thinking it through, I mean, the do outer loop is going to get you to play, okay, over and over again. And the inner while loop is going to, roll it each time until you get, the dice is set to 2, or the total is set to 2 right here. And you'll count them up each time you roll. And this is just to display what the dice 1 and 2 are, and you can check and see and make sure that works. And then it just keeps going up here until it gets snake eyes, and then it breaks out and it prints, the number of rolls that you had, and then do you want to play again? Okay, so I'm gonna set up. Let's do this. So if I did void set counter and int get counter. So we'll return the counter. All right, so that, and there's going to be errors here now because remember, I've got everything defined in here, and I need to make these variables global variables. All right, so that each function main set and get can use counter. All right, so I will do, this will be in my set counter. And again, this isn't an exact science, but the idea is that you're breaking your methods up into accomplishing whatever task you're trying to do. This task sets my counter variable, and maybe this should be called roll because it's rolling. I don't know, maybe you want to call it roll. It doesn't matter. So you'd set roll and get roll or whatever, but I don't know, since I'm adding up a counter variable and that's what I'm going to return back to here, this is just how I wrote it. I mean, it's not necessarily how you are going to do it. You might make yours look a little bit differently. But again, the idea of main should be, let me see here, should be, I don't know if this is going to work here. It probably needs to go in here where the random variable stuff is. Okay. Because again, that's not a variable. It's setting your seed up for this thing. So I think that should probably go there. But again, this should just, inside here should be like your user interface, all right? And so, and user interface looks weird too, because you guys are all used to point and click with your mouse as your user interface, or like a nice online form that you fill out and press an enter button. Again, we're just doing character coding here. Because all that other stuff will come later in your studies and more advanced classes. Let's try this out. I think this works, but maybe not. Should probably... Okay, 39, yes. 30, yes. Let's try this. 57, no. Okay, let's see. Make sure. Okay, 3, yes. 12, yes. Alright, I mean, again, it seems like it works fine to me. I don't see any errors, and I press no and it quits. Game over. Thanks for playing. But each time you do your rolls, it counts them all up. So, and again, so I got my set, and then I get my counter variable. Yeah, so, I think this is good. We're kind of starting to combine. Notice how, this is getting more complicated with the loops, all right? And, I tell students, like, especially when you start doing your nested loops, this kind of separates, most of this is an intro type class for you. A lot of you are wanting to kind of explore computer programming and whether you want to pursue it as a career. This is what, in my mind, separates the people who really want to study this stuff and those that are, I wanted to try it out and it's really not for me. This is where a lot of people kind of get stuck because the nested loops are actually pretty difficult to think through. So you should kind of feel good about functions. See, usually, like even in this class, they introduced functions with loops, and I'm going, introduce functions when you're doing simple stuff like, just displaying basic variables to the screen so that kids can get, or not kids, but, students can get comfortable using them before you're using them with loops. And then, because this is where it's starting to get hard. I want you guys to struggle with loops and not have to worry about functions. Functions should be easy by now. All you're doing is I always have a setter function and a getter function, and you call them, you can pass information to them. In this case, there's no information to pass to them, but just because of how I set it up. But you should feel good about functions and where you're at on this. And then, again, the hard part of the chapter is worrying about, basic loops aren't hard, but when you start getting to nested loops, it does take some time to kind of think through how those would work, all right? So, this video is done.